Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Welcome, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. The boys are back. That's correct. We are back here to talk about home brews. We even have a home brewer on the show today. Welcome back, Colin, who was here February of last year. And we had a whole conversation.
Colin, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
And Brian Cooper and I were in the chat a little bit early talking to Colin. Well, actually, I should say right on time because Brian Shar was late, but, you know, I'll let that go.
I'm late. And, what about it, man?
And, you know, apparently we were talking last year about, like, how there's this thing going around and, like, you know, whatever. No one really knew what to make of it. So we're here now, everybody, and, you know, things are looking up. Things are looking up.
Yeah, we're tasting a pandemic rebrew beer here tonight.
Yes.
Are we?
Yes, a year ago when I had this cough that wouldn't go away, and I was like, no, I didn't get sick, really. I had like a cold, but I had this cough for like 3 months, and it won't go away. What's happening?
And then suddenly everyone else around me had the same cough. It was weird, and I got really tired, and, you know, whatever. Anyway.
Maybe I'm typhoid Brian.
Hopefully. That would be nice. Before we start on the show, though, I would like to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. You know, as you guys know, I'm homebrewing again. Actually, I don't think we've done the show since I've brewed. I finally brewed a batch of homebrew and used nothing but Star Sand and PBW from 5 Star.
Ingredients.
As ingredients, yeah. No. As ingredients, I ran that through, mashed in. I dry Star Sand. Yeah.
Didn't Justin do that like 12 years ago?
Probably. It was weird, man. Like sort of getting back in the saddle of. I used the Brewzilla for more beer, so it's all in one like thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it was weird, and I have a more beer 5-gallon conical, and it was very strange to me to like. Remember how to sanitize shit. Like during the boil, it was like 10 minutes left in the boil, and I was like, oh, I need to put this somewhere. I need to put all this beer somewhere. So I had to like, I have to clean. How do I do that? Clean the bottom dump in PBW and then Star Sand and then put it back on and then fill the conical with Star Sand or a PBW and like wipe it down and let it sit and do it. Like those steps were sort of like they came to me after a while, but it took a good amount of brain power for me to figure out how to do stuff. And that conical hasn't been used in 5 years, much less cleaned. So I had full confidence in my Star Sand and my PBW, and beer came out great. I thought it was. I think it tastes really good. I fucked up the brewing because it was, you know, a weird. I've never brewed this way before, so it's going to take me a little bit. But came out good. It's a light beer, so I know that, or you know, it's like 3.8 maybe.
Nice.
It's a dark mild.
What kind of beer? Like a mild.
Dark mild, but with Kvike yeast.
Why?
I don't know. I think because, well, actually, I can tell you exactly why. I was listening to Brew Strong because I edit and post the Brew Strongs, and there was one that was posted maybe about a month ago that they're talking to a lab in Canada about Kvike yeast and all that kind of stuff. It's a very interesting show, actually, if you guys are interested in Kvike. And I was like,
Escarpment. I just listened to that show other day.
How was my editing? Was it good?
It was real good, man.
Thanks, man.
Good job.
Yeah, and so anyway, I was like, I want to try brewing with that, and then I was looking at the yeast on more beer, and then, you know, they have all the descriptions, and this one sort of like threw off a little fruity things. And I'm like, that could work with a mild. I think that would be great. And honestly, I like it so much, I bought ingredients for an ESB, and I got the same yeast. So I'm going to try it again and see what happens. But anyway, I feel very, very secure and comfortable using a conical that's been sitting around for 5 years, all mungy, with 5 Star Chemicals, and you should too. Go to 5starchemicals.com. They keep the show on the air. Send them an email, throw them a follow on their social media, and thank them very much. And thank them very much for sponsoring the show, sponsoring the network. We really, really appreciate it. And if HomebrewCon happens, which apparently is up in the air, like they're actually
learned by like mid-March. Yeah,
mid-March. So if we do it, if it happens, which I don't think that's very smart. But if we do, I'm sure it'll be done with the greatest of care. Then you can say hi to the 5-star people. But otherwise, send them an email. Thank them very much for the show, please.
JP, while you're having that dark mild, I'm only gonna digress for 2 seconds. I've always been kind of iffy on that Kvike yeast, and I've never really liked any of the beers I've had that are made with it. But it's because it's always like a home brewer that's like, hey, I fermented this at 95 degrees. Like,
right.
Why? What are you doing? And then the guys at Escarpment on the show were like, no, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, maybe the reason I haven't liked the beers I've had that have been made with Kvike yeast is that people are trying to do this one-upmanship, kind of like, I have 100 IBUs in my IPA. So no, I fermented this beer at 125. I put it in my oven, and it was done in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
No,
well,
that's not what you're supposed to do with the Kvike yeast.
Yeah, well, I think part of the issue with that is that people are still learning about it, and so they think that we can do this a lot like Saison yeast. People go, well, to make a Saison, you got to bake the shit out of that thing. You don't really,
right?
Because I've had some really good commercial Saisons that are 64. 65.
Also, this yeast comes from Scandinavian countries. It's not exactly the freaking tropics.
Right. And it's
not at all.
It's not just one like yeast, it's a family of yeast. When you go, I brewed with Kvike yeast, it's like, well, what kind, what strain, right? Which is also what I learned from that Escarpment show. Anyway, Brew Strong, it's a good show. Check it out.
It's a really good show. Definitely, if you have any interest, you download that thing and listen to it. It's real good.
But even if, anyway, so I fermented this at I pitched it like 68 or 70, and I sort of just let it free rise. It was such a low OG. It was like 1040. It was done in a couple of days, but I think it got up to like 76, 78 maybe. And that's it, because it's still relatively chilly, air quotes, out here at, 78 in my garage during the day. Anyway, so I didn't really bake it a whole lot, but I don't think you should. Anyway, I think
you shouldn't.
I think to your point, you're right. A lot of home brewers early on were sort of driving it up because they could, but now we're sort of learning through places like Escarpment and shows like that Brew Strong app that you don't need to do that. That's not really what drives the flavor. They're tolerant to that temperature, but don't do it. It doesn't do the best flavor. Still do it mellow, but I got in those the packs from, I think it's Omega yeast or whatever. It's just like a Terran thing, like Terran dump, but it's in the pouches like White Labs or Y yeast used to be. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm an idiot, and I take it and I go, and I fucking smack it, and my hand just bounces back. I'm like, oh, it's not a smack pack. Like, it's just that muscle memory of having that container in my hand, and I'm like, anyway, that thing was kicking off within 6 hours. It was very, very fast, and that's what I've heard from that family of yeast, that Kvike yeast. It's very, very hearty. It'll sort of go real fast. Anyway, if you're interested in it, check it out. Kvike yeast is good stuff.
No long-time home brewer will ever forget trying to chase down that little tiny packet in that one pack and kind of hold it in place, and then kind of hold it in place with one hand while you whack it with the other and hope you've broken it.
Yeah. Well, I got big hands, so I could just basically cover that thing the whole entire time. But nothing was worse where like you thought you hit it, and then you don't, and then you cut it open, and it's just like slurry, or not slurry, but like basically just wort or whatever, and it's like, wow, that's pretty clear. Oh, because all the yeast is still in the little pod. Anyway,
yes.
We're going to talk about Colin's beer, and then we're going to be talking about the new styles in the not BJCP, at the Brewers Association, their commercial styles, but who would we be if we weren't talking about styles? And there's some pretty interesting things going on at the BA. So we're going to talk about the 4 brand new styles really briefly. We're not going to go super nerdy into them. And then that'll be it. So I'll have a good time drinking beer and drinking home brews and all that kind of fun stuff. You know what I'm trying to say, guys?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Good. Well, before we do that, let me take a quick break, mainly because I don't have a bottle opener. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to grab a bottle opener. We're going to come back. We're going to jump into Colin's beers. Right after this, it's Dr. Homebrew. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Ma'am, I'll need to take your top off for this examination.
Oh, doctor.
All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. We are back. Dr. Homebrew. We're here with Colin. What's up, dude? Welcome back, Colin.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Happy little bit over 1 year anniversary.
Well, he's been back since. He's a multiple repeat offender.
Sure, I know. I understand. What are you, my wife?
Sure.
You got to correct me at every moment in my life?
But yeah.
Colin,
anniversary of this beer.
Colin, what did you send us and why are we drinking it?
So this is a Baltic Porter. So based off the feedback from a year ago, I rebrewed the beer, and I'm kind of curious to see if it improved or if the things I was hoping to fix got fixed or not.
Okay, I love it. I love it when people send in beers. Baltic Porter?
Yep.
What style is this?
That's not what you have in your hand.
That's not what I have in my hand. What is this?
It's a 9C.
I got a 22B.
It's got a red cap.
The 22B isn't the one even for later. So you're just drinking crazy, man.
Colin, what is this beer then?
Was it from the last show?
I don't know.
The American Strong?
This smells like an American Strong. Yep. All right. Well, I don't need to drink it. I'm going to drink this American Strong. So it was a Baltic Porter. You rebrewed it based on everybody's. I'm going to just say everybody because it sort of includes me, but it doesn't really. Everybody's feedback, and then you sent it in. I think that's cool, man. I appreciate that. Brian Shar, why don't you go ahead and go first, please?
All right, then. So, Colin, thank you for sharing this. I do have to share a amusing and slightly horrifying anecdote of how I received the beer. You packaged them very well, and each bottle came in a separate big Ziploc baggie. And I opened up the box, and one bottle was kind of soaked. The label was soaked in Baltic Porter. Oh. And probably, I'm guessing, about a cubic inch of it had gotten out somehow in transit. So I sort of gingerly took that out and washed the bottle and put it in my fridge. I haven't opened up that one. The other one seemed like it may have had a few drops come out in transit, but I went ahead and put it in my fridge anyway. And about 3 days later, I have a separate little beer fridge, and for some reason, I don't know why I didn't put it in there. About 3 days later, my partner's putting some stuff in the fridge and knocks that one bottle out, and the cap hits the kitchen floor. Thankfully, it's like linoleum, and a few drops come out. And I'm like, oh, my God, no, that's the only one. And she picks it up, and she puts it back in the fridge, and I'm like, well, okay. And, we had some, Brian and JP and I had some texting before the show about, well, can we maybe exchange bottles or whatever? But fortunately, when I opened this up, it did have some hiss, and it ended up being a really excellent beer. So I was all afraid for the last few weeks of nothing. The one bottle that I didn't have really much leakage from, I was terrified that somehow it was going to get oxidized or be uncarbonated or something. So it wasn't a giant hiss when I opened it up, but there was a hiss, and the bottle was filled properly. Aroma, smooth and complex. I get chocolate, plum, bread crust, there's just some of the highlights. It's not even everything that's in there, that all harmoniously blend together. I got some raisin at a very low level, not like sometimes when you detect raisin, just like in a red wine, sometimes it's like, whoa, a little raisin is good, but a lot of raisins like, whoa, this is not what I signed up to drink. There's a soft raisin character, no hops, just a hint of ethanol sweetness, but a really nice harmonious aroma. 10 out of 12. Appearance 3 out of 3. Very dark brown with reddish highlights right at the edges. There's a very persistent low head with a tan color. hard to determine clarity with a dark beer. You have to kind of tilt it and look around the edges, but it's very clear as far as I can determine. Flavor. Initially, the flavor is a malty bread crust, low chocolate malt character. Hop bitterness comes up to balance in mid palate. It's really well attenuated. A big beer like this sometimes can just be kind of sweet or worty. This is not. It's, I think, attenuated very well. I get some plum cherry esters at kind of a low level, kind of like in the aroma. Sweet ethanol, not a fusel. You know, in a big beer, whether it's a Baltic Porter or barley wine or whatever, the character of the alcohol is important. And you can tell a lot from the aroma and the flavor about what kind of fermentation you've had. And the fusels are where you have kind of the, temperature went out of control or something bad. Yeast was unhappy or something bad happened to fermentation. And you get those sort of off fusel aromas. When fermentation is good, you get a sweet ethanol character that's not biting. It's not rubbing alcohol. It's not cheap vodka. It's just a sweet, clean ethanol, and this beer had that to me. It was a very long finished, balanced toward malt. I gave it a 17 for flavor. Mouthfeel 5 out of 5. Low carbonation through no fault of the brewer, Colin. Any carbonation issue was. I gave the benefit of the doubt on that from the bottle getting knocked onto the kitchen floor and having lost a little bit of carbonation on that. Medium warming, creamy, no astringency. Body is medium to high. Overall impression, I gave a 9 for a total of 44. This is really an amazing beer that I think is deceptively high in alcohol. Last time you were on, I think I was telling a story about like when I made Baltic Porter, and all the parents from daycare did not realize, despite my incessant warnings and the big 10% on the board and the big circle around that, this is a high alcohol beer. Be careful. There were people passed out there were dads and moms passed out in my living room from drinking this stuff. But that's kind of the ideal of the Baltic Porter, right? You have a very flavorful, high alcohol beer that, because it's fermented at a lager temperature, is very smooth and kind of sneaks up on you without if you don't understand what you're drinking, it can kind of hit you a little hard. This beer is so harmonious, and it raises kind of I scored it real high, and people have had this discussion before, and I don't know that I need to belabor it here, but it raises that kind of point of, well, what really is the platonic ideal of any style, and what stops people from judging something that might be in the mid 40s, like the full 50? And is it just our own reluctance to do that because we typically don't do something like that, or what? But regardless, you're up in the rarefied air of very high scores for this beer. I really liked it. And I plan to drink a lot more of this while Brian is talking about his score.
Nice.
Okay. Well, drink away, buddy.
I know we got another show to do after this, but I'm not sure. We'll see how able I am to do that in about half an hour.
Right. Well, we only have one beer on this show, so you can sip it during the second.
There you go. There you go. All right, Cooper.
Yeah, my bottle had a nice fill and a good little hiss when I opened it. So that was cool. I didn't have any leakiness. In the nose, I get an initial malty sweetness with edges of some chocolatiness and medium roast coffee. It's got a modest seeming smooth alcohol, really clean, not solventy or harsh at all. No hops noted. The beer is just not burnt at all. You don't want it to have any real rich roastiness at all in the Baltic. So that's spot on. No DMS or diacetyl. I would say kind of very low ester. There's not really, it seems it's got more of a lager character than an ale character. I think any of the fruitiness is probably coming from the malt. I do get a hint of some plum, malty fruitiness in there. So yeah, I gave it a 10 on aroma as well, Brian. Appearance wise, it's a deep brown with mahogany tinge to it. It's pretty nicely dark. I like that. It has some garnet highlights showing through when you hold it up to the light. So it seems clear, but you do kind of have to look at the corners to really tell. It's almost opaque. Medium low tan colored head. Actually persisted quite well when I poured it last night. This one, I tilted my glass a little bit, so I didn't give it a real fair, like straight down pour. But it's made of mostly finer bubbles here and just a nicely formed head. And this beer, despite the strength, should have a head that sticks around a little while for you. So it did persist pretty well. There's some obvious alcohol in here, and that will knock that down a little faster than than the lighter beers. About a 3 out of 3 for appearance as well. In the flavor, this beer is richly malty. It's fairly boldly alcoholic, but this element is really smooth. But it does hit you up front. Notes of coffee and some rich, darker chocolate, just kind of backgroundy though. It's not heavy or really pronounced. It's smooth, lightly dried prune. A water profile shows kind of restrained minerality. It doesn't have any mineral bite or sharpness to it or edges kind of poking out. It seems like the water used was pretty nice for the style. It finishes, I called it medium semi-dry. It's not completely dry. It's kind of there's a hint of some sweetness there, but it is really nicely attenuated, like Brian said. It's just right where you want it there. It'd be neat to know what the final gravity was on this one. And when I listened to back to the previous show when we talked about this, the first brew of this, the attenuation and that dryness, not bone dryness obviously, but the place where it finished out seemed like a really good place then too. Medium low bitterness, just enough to kind of bring it up to balance for the style. You don't want too much bitterness in the way here. Only faintly spicy hop flavor. It's cleanly fermented with no off flavors to detract. Balanced firmly to the malt for sure. It's got a nice dark malt character to it. It's not. I don't want to say it's nondescript because it's complex, but it's not super chocolatey. There's not a lot of the middle, toffee caramelly kind of flavors. It's just more, and there's a little bit of toastiness, but it's mostly, it's like really smooth coffee, really smooth chocolate, and just kind of generic smooth dark malt character that just lingers into the aftertaste with that the alcohol there. So I gave it a 17 for the flavor, exactly as Brian did. Mouthfeel wise,
and we didn't coordinate this in advance. In fact,
I was trying to text him earlier, like, "Hey, did you judge that Baltic yet, bro?"
Yeah, Cooper texted me and again like 2 minutes before I went on. Like, "What did you score that thing?" So this is all totally Cooper independently.
Nice.
Yeah. In the mouthfeel, full bodied. It's pretty mouthfilling, but not too chewy or heavy at all. Smooth, medium high alcohol warmth, extending all the way to the back of the throat and partly down the throat as well. But it's not harsh or biting at all. Medium high carbonation keeps it perky. It's a bit acidic with the dark malt's acidity, kind of complementing the higher CO2, which this beer, it's not, for a strong beer, a lot of times the stronger ones will have a little less carbonation, like a barley wine or something, but the Baltic can have a fair amount. And that was something we talked about the last time too. So that's coming through nicely. And, just very smooth sipper altogether. It's creamy smooth. There's no astringency going on here. So, and for some reason I reading the guidelines, that fits it about perfectly, but I gave it a 4 for mouthfeel. but after I listened to Brian's 5, I just changed mine to 5.
Oh shit! There we go. Adjusting on the fly.
Yeah, it's a very finely brewed Baltic Porter with excellent recipe, ingredient choices, and very well cared for fermentation. The smoothness and deceptive strength seem to be the defining characteristics, along with the richness and complexity of the malts, stopping far short of burnt or rough. There's no, we talked to sometimes about this, the kind of what I call like the metallic tang, or I don't know, maybe it's just an age defect that you get in some of the bottles, like the Polish ones that I've had. And, I haven't had too many commercial examples. I've never been in a place where I could taste one fresh from draft necessarily. So the ones I've had that are really good have been homebrews like this one. But this is probably the best homebrewed Baltic I've had. There's no overt minerals or anything giving it a more, a more acidic bend. It's just acidic, and it's just from the dark malts that are there. It's not really overly acidic at all, I wouldn't say. It's just clean and smooth. I would say it could use a touch more fruitiness, and we could talk about how to get that. You don't really want the fruitiness to come from your fermentation, but maybe bringing in some, different malts that will give you that a little fruitiness in the malt profile. Some Cara Munich or something. I don't know. It's just something to give it a little interesting, a little bit more of the fruitiness. But I drank all of this last night. And, it was my first beer at like 11:30 last night after I got back up because I crashed out for a while, and it was nice. I'm like, this is nice. I'm just gonna finish this, and I rarely do that with the Dr. Homebrew beers. So
I mean, who among us has not fallen asleep and then woken up and been like, "Why do you need to drink some more?"
Right. You pass out with that glass, and then you I gotta finish it. You reach over
exactly.
for that. Yeah.
So I gave it a 9 out of 10 for overall impression as well, and that so now that I fixed my mouthfeel score, which was obviously just wrong. I landed at a 44 as well. So that's where we're at. Mid 40s is pretty high. I don't know how many we've scored over 45 on the history of the show, or up towards 45. It's there have been a number of them, but this is a very fine beer again. And when I listened to the sheet from last February, it was very similar. The differences I detected were that I think I pulled out a little bit of toffee like in the last one that I didn't get as much in this one. Maybe it was a little more carameliness, and the middle malts kind of came through a little more, and that was nice. And it gave them a little more. Maybe it was a little more complex on the malt side, but I think this one's probably got a little bit more of the malt, the fruitiness. We're both getting plum and
a little cherry.
Yeah, cherry and that kind of stuff, prune. So it's there and it's coming up. I don't know what the adjustments you made and if they were subtle or if you made pretty bold changes, but I remember on the last one you used just a regular base malt, a 2-row as your base, and you can you can go different directions with what you want to do there. But yeah, I'd love to hear the recipe and just hear where you went with this, what the things were that you did change.
Yeah, for sure.
What we talked about.
Absolutely, Colin. Go ahead.
Well done.
Man.
Yeah. Thank you. So the main things I was trying to change based off the last time. So the roast character was overly chocolate last time, I thought. So I tried to make that a little more complex without making it more roasty, and then to bump the fruit, the kind of the dark fruit characters, the two main goals that I was doing. So to do that, it was malt based. So the original gravity, final gravity, water, yeast, hops, everything else was exactly the same. But I split my base malt between split base malt and then split the roast malt into 2 different roast malts. So I'll just kind of go through the whole thing just in case people haven't heard the last one and go from there. But so for base malts, it was 6.5 pounds or 32.8% of Weyermann Bohemian dark malt. And that's like a Czech style Munich, essentially.
Wow, nice.
And then it was 2-row at 6.5 pounds, 32.8%. And then it was caramel 60 at 1.2 pounds or 6%, caramel 120, 1.2 pounds, 6%, chocolate malt 0.6 pounds, 3%, midnight wheat 0.6, 3%, rye malt 1.5 pounds, 7.6%, and then flaked wheat 1.7 pounds, 8.6%. This is for a 5-gallon batch.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that little spicy quality I was thinking, is it from the hops or is it kind of is there some rye or something going on there? That's cool. And I think that midnight wheat is probably helping you there too. Getting your color, keeping it smooth, helping with the head retention there maybe.
And it is. So I found one bottle of the last version. That's on the left. And
Oh.
the version is on the right.
Okay.
So they are almost dead in color. The new one's a little bit darker. You can't really tell.
Yeah, no, it's really hard to see, but yeah, that's cool, man.
It's just a skosh darker.
Nicely done.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
That wheat's going to give you a little bit of extra body too, which helps without making it feel under attenuated or worty.
Yeah.
Which this certainly is not. What yeast did you use?
I did the 1728 again. So I fermented at 62. It fermented it in about a week, and then threw the keg I brewed this in August, so 7-ish months.
Brian, the last show, Brian suggested trying a lager version of it, and I wonder if you ever considered that. I know it's a lot more work, but
I haven't. Just this beer takes about 6 months to age. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know that you need to, right? I mean, I gave that advice because I always made mine with lager yeast, but it is a pain in the ass. But you have to worry about stuck fermentation.
Sure.
And you have to worry about all the stuff you had to worry about with lagers, and you managed to use an ale yeast, at a low temp. I mean, 62 is a low temp. It can be kind of a low temperature for that. And you managed to get, I think, the right amount of fruitiness. This doesn't come across like an ale fermentation sometimes, where, especially in a bigger beer, an ale fermentation, especially if it's not temperature controlled, can get real estery and even a little fusely. And that's, I think you had exactly dead on the amount of esters that you would expect from this beer. And there's certainly no fusels.
Damn.
Yeah, you could just do it with a Kvike yeast and ferment it at 95.
There we go.
Don't do it.
If you want to ferment that in the morning, you'd be drinking that at night.
Don't do it, man.
Yeah, I like that. I like the yeast. I think the yeast is good. It would be interesting to see where it went with a different yeast, because I remember this taste. It's that yeast character works nicely with this recipe that you've got, and I wouldn't necessarily need to change it, but you could blend yeasts if you like this one and add another yeast or something and just have some fun with it. Or make a big batch of it and do 2 with 2 different yeasts.
Yeah.
2.
On the actual Y Yeast website, they list Baltic Porter as a style for that yeast, which is how I found it to begin with.
Nice.
Well, clearly they're right, because the score that you got with this, I mean, I'm not sure, you're up in that territory where that last tiny bit of point area between you and 50 is that weird kind of intangible, ineffable, hard to identify, what is that? And just getting to a 44 is territory that's going to win you, first in a category, best in show.
Oh yeah, easily.
That's
NHC.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So I have yet to get a best in show, so that's my goal with this beer. So
you might. I mean, I'm dead serious. I mean, as much as NHC is charging a lot of money per entry this year, you might want to. You might consider, if you have some bottles of this, ponying up that entry fee and firing this off to NHC, man. Seriously.
What's
there's
the
6 bottles in the fridge? So
what's the entry
Cap
fee
them really
this year?
tightly though.
yeah, I set some other beer to competition at the same time, and the same thing happened. So I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
A lot of times when I'm capping, I use the wing capper and I'll cap it, and then I'll just do like 2 different angles and get it really well sealed.
Char, what's the entry fee this year?
Isn't it something like $30?
Yeah, I think it's like 32 or something
per entry. It's like,
but there's not 2 rounds this time. There's just the 1 round.
Jeez.
And I appreciate.
but,
I got the and we can talk. I think this is something we're maybe talking about later on this show or next show. But I got the invitation to judge, like pretty much everybody else. But it's like you're going to be in Denver for a week, and you're going to be judging every day. You're going to be spaced apart from people like 10 feet. And I mean, I think it'd be fun, but it's just hard to justify being away for a week to judge beer literally every day at the competition. And I respect and admire the people that are doing it. I think that's a great thing, but I think it's difficult for most people to get away like that.
For sure. Yeah, especially now, man.
Yeah, I hope to get all the judges they need for it, but I'm sure that for the people that can spend that time and all the money to get there, and in the uncertain times we live in, it's I'm sure they'll have a great experience.
Right.
When you're spending that much to send in your entry, you damn well better hope it has a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think yours would.
I appreciate that.
I'll pony up $5 towards it. Yeah. I'll Venmo you.
Yeah, are we going to start seeing people crowdsourcing entry fees, man?
Yeah.
I think that'd be amazing.
Go fund me to win Ninkasi.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're reaching their limits too. I mean, they got an email that they're getting full for the competition. So
sounds good to me, man. God bless them. Hopefully it happens. All right, Colin. Well, if that's it, I mean, do you have any other where do you go from here? I guess. I mean, you're one of the not many people have sent in a rebrew, especially you scoring that high. So what do you do? Are you going to tweak it? Are you going to enter it? Are you going to leave it alone? Is it done?
It's never done.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know it was a dumb question, man, but
you listened to our faulty advice and actually made it a point or a couple points better here. So
I think a 41-43 last time. So 244s is better.
But when you get
sure.
in this territory, it is the finer points, and sometimes it's hard to give really good advice when it's this good. Like, a little more fruitiness, malt fruitiness would help somehow, but.
So one thing I noticed, so this sat in the back of my fridge for a long time, and I just kind of took a little off here and there. I bottled the samples I sent you guys, and then threw it in the kegerator at a normal temperature, like 47, I think is what I have it at. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit higher carb, like it was a little lower carb, and the amount of aroma is just way more intense. So I think it's a little bit undercarbed. And cracking the bottle I'm tasting right now, to me, it's not as intense as it was out of the keg. So I think it may have oxidized a little bit even.
Yeah, we talked about that, the carbonation driving the aromas and stuff a little better. So and giving a little more of an edge. It's so smooth it can stand a little more, even a little more acidity from the carbonic acid, the CO2 in suspension. It's not gonna hurt it. So and it'll hold the head up even longer. It was pretty good though. It was definitely improved from the last time a little bit.
Nice
on that front. Yeah.
All right.
The head. The midnight wheat was something you added.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how does the year-old one tasting?
It's an absolute fruit bomb.
Okay.
Like it's good. I've had wheat wines before, and it kind of reminds me of that. Like straight up like a Doppelbock or super duper fruity.
Yeah. Like a super fruit bomb is not going to do nearly as well as a Baltic Porter, because it's not supposed to be a fruit bomb style. And I agree with you. If it's something like that, probably more like a wheat wine would be appropriate.
Right.
Well, you could blend in like 3% fruit bomb with this one.
If I think I put this in wheat wine, I don't think I do very well.
No, probably not. Probably not. All right, Colin.
Colin, were you in a homebrew club?
I am. The Greenville Brew Stooges.
Excellent. In Greenville, South Carolina?
Yep, that's it.
That's right.
All right. Cool.
But the northern part of South Carolina.
Yes, the northern part of South Carolina.
That's true.
Not North Carolina.
As opposed to the southern part of North Carolina.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, boys. All right. Let's let Colin get out of here. Colin, thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then be sure to check in and let us know if you do enter this. And if you win, let us know, please.
Yeah, I'll definitely do. It is for sure getting entered, so I'll let you guys know
cool.
what I do.
Cool. All right, great. All right, thanks, Colin. Appreciate it, man. And we're going to take a quick break, everybody. We'll be right back after these words from our lovely sponsors here on Dr. Homebrew.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Kings.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. No, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Hey, thanks for hanging around, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew, of course, and we're going to be chatting now about the brand new styles that the BA introduced. And this is, of course, for, commercial competitions, right, for GABF and, whatever. But I feel like it's important to talk about here, since we sort of prattle on about styles all the time. I can see some of these either coming over, maybe they're already represented in the BJCP. I don't know. I'm stupid as shit. But Brian and Brian here are the ones that know everything. So we're going to talk about the 4 brand new style categories. Some of them I've never heard of before, okay? Some of them I have, because I've been around a little bit. I've been around the block. But, for the most part...
Chocolate Saison and, peanut butter wheat and some of those. Yeah.
Yep. The classic brews that I like to have. Classic stuff. So first on the list... Kentucky Common. Now, isn't that a BJCP style already?
It is.
It's weird that the BA just is now coming up with it, because I've had Kentucky Commons before commercially, not a lot, but they've been there. I don't know. I wonder why.
What's interesting is at Northern California Homebrew Festival, probably 5 years ago. That was the official style that people were supposed to make for People's Choice Festival.
Yes.
And I remember my homebrew club, Words of Wisdom. If you're on Zoom, I'm pointing to my shirt where Words of Wisdom. We had a number of people make Kentucky Common, and we actually had a pretty robust and good-natured debate in the club, just internally, about what a Kentucky Common was. Was it a sour style or not a sour style?
I remember this going around.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there was actually historical, depending on what references. This was not a trivial discussion, because you could find references, historical records, writings each way about Kentucky Common. And we never really resolved it. And I'm not sure that anyone's really resolved it. And I'll be curious what the BA has come up with in that regard, because I've had sour and non-sour Kentucky Common. They're both real good.
Yeah, it's a style that was popular before Prohibition and centered around the Louisville, Kentucky area. And they speculate that they use it's a darker beer, so they speculate they use the darker malt to, kind of the German brewers there would use it to play off the water there, fairly carbonate, I believe. But yeah, it's just it's an interesting. It just completely died out, and they revived it lately again, and it was really popular there in that sub-region just before Prohibition. I think it was a large percentage of the beer sold there was a Kentucky Common.
Yeah,
and they brewed it really fast and really, 6 to 8 days, and they put it in the keg while it was still fermenting, or
is that sort of like the Germans, the Spunding? I mean, where they cap it during fermentation to carbonate during fermentation. That's Spunding, right? I got that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's sort of the same.
Kind of put a valve in so that it doesn't. You can kind of dial it in so it doesn't pressurize so much that it kills the yeast, but it helps you retain CO2. And I think as you go, my understanding is you get closer to the end of fermentation, you keep like closing that so that you retain and naturally carbonate, right?
Right. Similar to krausening, but using the beer as it's actively going, not adding fresh, fermenting beer to one that's already finished. So
got it.
Yeah.
It's crazy that there's like historical styles that we haven't, fully raised from the dead yet. You would think that that'd be something everyone wants to do, is like comb the books. I mean, another people, in England doing the same thing. I know our friend Peter Simons in Australia is doing that too. And it's like, they're all sort of variations on a theme. And I don't know, has anybody done that for American breweries yet? I don't know that.
Yeah. So the overall thing about this beer is it's kind of based on, it's going to be real similar to like a cream ale, with some corn-like quality to it and a low kind of biscuity, toasty. It's not, it's a ambery to light brown colored beer, but it's not like a porter at all. It's how like amber ales can sort of have like a nutty, not a nutty, but like a grainy thing. Is it biscuity kind of? Yeah, biscuity. So when you said that, it sort of reminded me like some of those really good amber lagers, right? That sort of like that sort of hairline biscuity thing. Is it like a cream ale with that in it? Just with basically like a cream ale with a dark, some dark malt added for color and get the their carbonic water, to a good place. So they're just, it's just basically a water adjustment there that they did. And hey, this works, they might not have even known why necessarily, but in 1900, but they served it fresh. So it wouldn't have been sour. It's pretty restrained alcohol. It tops out at about, 5%, but a lot of them are in the 4s probably. So, and that does make sense. Going back to Char's comment, that's a fresh beer. It's not a beer that you serve like, you age for 6 months or whatever. It's produced there and consumed in the area. It's probably more of a regional thing within the state of like every, city or every brewery had their own version, and it would just sort of go. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. And it would make sense why maybe some would add lacto or something, like just taking a quick look, a quick search, like Alton Brown's Serious Eats even dives into this a little bit. And there's some breweries added lacto and some didn't. So maybe like you're saying, JP, because it's so local, you could easily have around Louisville, you could have like 10 places making it without lacto and 10 places making it with, and you just go to the place you like, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah, but it's more like not like an amber ale, but it's more like an Irish red, where it uses just the dark malt just for the color and the acidity to get their water to the right place. And they use some gypsum, so it's got a nice dry finish, and they produce it quick. The BJCP guidelines suggest it was typically done in 6 to 8 days. They would really just use an aggressive ale yeast and just get it to rock and roll, probably overpitch the hell out of it, and just, here you go, here's a beer. 6 days. But yeah, like 1 to 2% of some caramel and some black malt, and whatever native American hops, think classic, but not really hoppy either, just really low, 0.2 pounds per barrel. Okay. Roughly. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, but it's a true American original. It came from Kentucky, so there's not many beers, that we can claim as our own.
No,
we've grifted onto a lot of beers over time and taken them and done different things with them. We're innovative here in America. We like to take things to extremes.
Do you think it's a style that like anyone cares about?
It's in the historical section of the guidelines. It's
Yeah,
not
but
like,
I mean, is the beer drinking public, and maybe if people are in the chat, they can correct me, as you guys like to do sometimes. Is the general beer drinking sort of ethos, I guess, like remaking old beers? I mean, lagers are coming back. Fucking Belgian quads are coming back, for God's sakes. Black IPAs are making a return.
Please no. Quads can stay gone.
Right, but it's like, do we really need room for a Kentucky Common? I mean, is anybody going to care about it if a commercial brewery makes it? No, I don't feel like it's a style that needs to be etched in stone, sort of like properly.
It's a niche beer. I think some breweries make a really good one, and like this brewery, Shadow Puppet, our local, they make a Kentucky Common, and until they made a hazy IPA, it was one of their more popular beers. But it's good. It's gonna, a lot of people like it, but it's not like a really trendy beer.
I mean, I can kind of throw that back at us about California Common.
Don't do it.
I mean, Anchor Steam is real good. It's a good beer. I like it. But is it relevant in 2021 to the vast majority of the American public?
No.
Not.
But I mean, it's been made since,
forever.
Forever, right. So it is one of those things where it's like, it's
well for maybe 45 years.
It's continuously made, but Anchor Steam is one of those beers, man, where it doesn't travel well. It doesn't age well. No. So it sort of goes to, again, like this was a beer consumed fresh. Because, I mean, obviously they're not the same thing, but like Anchor Steam is hyper regional. That shit does not, even in San Francisco, sometimes you can get bottles that like, this tastes like dog shit. It just so bitter and like.
Have you seen how they cool it? I mean, it's the cold column, and it flows down like the outside of this cold column, and it oxidizes so much. And I've said, it's exactly what I've said, JP, for 40 years is you Anchor Steam more than about 20 miles outside of the geographic center of the city of San Francisco is crap.
It's awful. It's awful.
You'd have it in L.A. when I was younger, and it'd be like, God, I would drink it, but because it was something different. Like, there's something wrong with this. Mm-hmm. And then I learned about beer, like, that's called oxidation. It tastes like cardboard.
Well, and it's like cardboard, but it gets real bitter. Also, it's like sharp.
Yeah.
So when you said, that's exactly and I've been to like clubs in the city.
Oh yeah,
where you have, he's like, this is funky, dude. Like I don't understand how long this has been sitting here. Anyway,
because the kegs hasn't been empty. It's been
even the bottles.
2 weeks, and only 2 weeks are in the bottle. Yeah.
There's some styles that don't travel well, and I wonder if Kentucky Common isn't one of those. But I don't know.
I bet you're right.
It's just one of those things where like I don't really feel like I haven't heard about a commercial brewery making a California or Kentucky Common in 10 years. This is weird, but I'm glad that it's there, and now there's like it gives some sort of like maybe they did it because they're finding more people entering that style at GABF.
Maybe out east people are doing it. I don't know. That'd be cool. I'd be curious to drink some of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have a big club that does a competition for a certain beer. They're like, hey, all of a sudden it's on the radar for a minute, and then it just goes away
right.
again.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know. This one's been around for a while. I mean, the guidelines have been out since 2005, right? Is it
true? Yeah.
The BJCP ones, and it's in there. So
all right. Well, anything more of note for California or for Kentucky Common, or should we flip on?
Yeah, it's.
Let's move on.
I think we can move on.
Okay. All right.
The 2015 guidelines they're probably due to be. Why did I say 2005? I don't know what year it is. It's pandemic.
Who cares?
But yeah, I mean, it's been out for 6 years. I wonder if they'll keep it in and let the next change. But
right.
So yeah, we got a pair of beers coming up next, and we can kind of talk about these together. But it's the New Zealand style Pale Ale and the New Zealand style India Pale Ale.
Oh, cool!
Been added, and they're regional, variations to them. compared to like an American Pale Ale, American IPA. But the main defining characteristic of these beers is, of course, the hops. And if you know New Zealand hops, a lot of them have a nice tropical fruit character. Passion fruit, some stone fruit. You can come across a little grassy or diesel-like as well. But yeah, diesel. The pale ale is on the lighter side. I think it's 1040 to 1052. So it's going to be like a 4 to 6%. Well, I guess it's kind of typical pale ale strengths, but some can be a little lighter. And it's a light colored beer, not kind of same range of bitterness for a pale ale. Just a nice balanced pale ale with a New Zealand hop character to it. So and similarly for the New Zealand India Pale Ale, some might call it a tropical IPA. But you see that on bottles a lot, and that's been popular here and there.
Yeah,
tropical IPA. A lot of big breweries are making those, and I like them. I think they're nice. A juicy tropical IPA. It's clear and it's
as long as it's juicy.
Yeah, but all jokes about juiciness aside, the impression of what you're calling juicy is coming from the stone fruit and tropical kind of characteristics of these hops in the beer. It's like, oh, that's reminiscent of a citrus juice.
Exactly.
So yeah, and citrusy too. At grassy again, the diesel. The IPA can they give a starting gravity 1060 to 1070 for this, so it's going to be a typical modern IPA territory, 6.5-ish to 7.5-ish%. A little more bitterness, and the color is still pretty light, like 6 to 12 SRM.
Okay.
So you can have a little hop haze, but it's not a hazy one. It's going to be wet. You can go from gold to copper, whereas the pale ale is like straw to medium amber. That New Zealand IPA can be almost like a red IPA, if some examples may be. That's going to play a little differently with those hops. I don't feel that the tropical kind of hops play really well with like a caramelly malt. If it's if you use too much caramel to get your color, that's not going to work as well to me. But
yeah,
I totally agree with you.
I feel you, man. I feel you. I think that's I forget the brewery now. I think it was Halfway Crooks on the session. They were using a crystal rye. Mm-hmm. That could play with something, but I think in general, like you wouldn't have like a C150 or whatever. Yeah. I feel like that could be a little too overkill for that.
Yeah. But it's the New Zealand IPA is low to medium malt. It's not super intensely malty. I think the copper might be kind of an outlier in that. It's like you can go there, but no one hardly does. I have to say I haven't had many of these styles either. So, I've had some really good tropical IPAs, but New Zealand specific ones, it would be interesting to judge a flight of these and, get a feel for them.
Yeah, I do totally like those. You on that. That'd be really fun.
I do like the New Zealand hops, get a hold of some good.
The Motueka and the Waikatu or some of those Waikatu. I'm probably butchering all the names badly.
That's all right, though. The natives will be they understand. It's not easy, man.
Americans, it's not easy. Their names, but
I feel like at least
Nelson is like
Nelson.
Nelson you can do.
New Zealand, right?
Nelson is fantastic. So
I love me some Nelson.
That's kind of the hey, people started noticing New Zealand hops when Nelson popped up. It's like I remember seeing at Triple Rock in Berkeley, and it was like they had an all Nelson IPA. I was like, oh, let's try that. And I was like, oh damn, this is nice.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean,
El Cielo here in Martinez does one, and they've been canning that since the pandemic. The Nelson in the house, and that's a damn fine beer.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. And so
okay.
I got a bunch of different ones. It's and Galaxy too, right? So
Is Galaxy
I
a
love
New Zealand
Galaxy. I
hop?
think that's more of an Australian.
that's
varietal,
Australian though.
Mm.
Yeah,
but they probably
sorry.
grow some in New Zealand too.
Yeah, there's a
I love Galaxy, man.
some of these I don't know. Green Bullet, Kohatu, Riwaka. Some of these.
Riwaka. I've
Motueka.
brewed with Green Bullet a billion years ago, like back when that was an exotic, before the New Zealand and Australian hops became a big deal. They had some at the local More Beer in Los Altos, and yeah, I loved that Green Bullet even way back then, when nobody knew what the hell it was.
There's another one called YET. It's a pretty low alpha one, like a 2.2 to 3.5% alpha.
Didn't he direct Thor Ragnarok? Sorry,
That guy, yeah.
That's Taika Waititi.
There
Sorry.
you go.
I knew. I'm just making I'm being a funny podcaster.
Yeah, for sure. That's what that is. All right, and then the last one, Belgian style Belgian style session ale. So is that like the Belgian pale, that Westy 6 that I've been trying to clone forever? Like, is that what that would be?
Isn't that just a Belgian single, like the monastery, the table beer?
I thought,
Wasn't that
but
a style already?
I don't know. Cooper?
Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But it's a 2.1 to 5% alcohol beer. Just kind of a Belgian kind of table beer. The color is going to be all over the place. It just needs to be a sessionable Belgian beer, I think, and then something that doesn't fit into another unique Belgian style. So, it's just the modest alcohol content is pretty much the defining character of the beer. And sometimes they can be a second run of a higher gravity beer. So you make a big, a saison or a triple or something, and keep it running, and make a session ale out of the second runnings there.
Okay.
You can also, do a wood aged or barrel aged version. That sounds a little weird to me, or a fruited version, but
a wood aged table beer. I don't think that works, man.
Then it's saying
I agree with you on that.
I don't think that works
you can't
too well.
enter those in this category. They should be entered in the other. There's defining it here. So yeah. I guess they have to be real specific here because they have a place for everything. But they put out these guidelines I think they do it every year, don't they? For the competitions,
every year?
Runs.
I don't know.
ABF, yeah.
That's cool.
A lot of times when you're entering NHC, it's most of the GABF styles, but they can have some slight differences in there, what they accept, and they can add things as they want. So more power to them. It's the BJCP doesn't need to be the only source for beer styles, and it's we're kind of a slow moving vehicle, and the guidelines change when they change.
True.
I think they do a good job of categorizing the beers, but it's definitely not the Bible. There's other ways.
No, of course.
And even the BJCP says you can run your competition any way you want. You can use as long as your guidelines are consistent, you can use these guidelines. You can find the full version of them online. Just search for Brewers Association 2021 guidelines, and you can download those. So they just came out at the end of February. And so it's interesting to see some of the little changes in there. And I don't know that it's indicative of, are we going to start seeing a lot of these beers? I mean, I know, New Zealand hops have become more and more popular over time, and they probably rightfully have a place there. So that's a good add there. And I think Kentucky Common is interesting. I don't know why they didn't have it in there before. It's been around for a while, but
sounds good, man.
And maybe they just take feedback from their entrants and say, we got feedback in the form of people trying to submit beers maybe that don't fit into another style, and coming up with a place for that maybe. But I don't know.
All right, well, that's cool, man. I thought it was cool to talk about, and sort of end the show on that note, and sort of what's new. The contrary to popular belief, the world is moving forward, you guys. So hopefully we'll be we'll be talking about this in person soon. But I thought it'd be a lot of fun just to kind of chat about the new stuff and sort of keep up to date. And maybe, who knows, someone wants to brew a Kentucky Common and send it in. That'd be fun too. If you want to send in beers, and you could be like Colin and all the other past guests that we've had. I think this is show like 187, you guys. I think this is like, we're getting up there. We're getting old. If you want to be like everybody else, email brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. We are taking all submissions. We are taking wine, kombucha, hard seltzer, fucking mead, cider, anything you want to put.
You cool hipster kids want to make. And
Yeah.
Grass clippings from your backyard.
Yeah.
Poison ivy, an old tree.
If you're making a hand sanitizer,
down, send it to us.
if you're making hand sanitizer at home, send that over too. I don't really care. But we need something. We want to keep the show going. So please hook us up. Let us know what is going on. Even if you haven't been on the show before, who cares? Anyway, we're going to get out of here. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks to 5 Star Chemicals for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening to the show. If you're listening live, we're going to start a new show here in about, 10 minutes, Brian?
Yeah.
Or now? Should we just do it now? Can we start now? Like in 4 minutes?
Yeah, I gotta give my daughter a call.
In a matter of minutes. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to figure out if I should kill the stream or not. But anyway, we'll figure that out offline. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you.